So I just landed in Barbados, and tomorrow morning I'll be teaching a course, Water and Women, at the 12th Caribbean Institute in Gender and Development. This program is known as CIGAD, is now going into its 24th year, and it's something that is put on by the Institute of Gender and Development Studies at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. In 2015, when I taught the Water and Women component for the first time, there were 27 participants from 11 different CARICOM nations, ranging in age from 20 to 64. Of all of the participants and teachers, I think I was the only engineer. Now, there are many disciplines in the Caribbean that have high female enrollment. When it comes to engineering, however, those numbers are still quite low. If we look at the University of the West Indies, the engineering enrollment at the undergraduate level has been sort of stagnant at around 30% since 2006. The goal I had in 2015 was to really introduce Caribbean women to water from an environmental engineering perspective, and one that places them within the sustainable development discourse and the types of funding and funding mechanisms available in the Caribbean region. By the end of 3 hours, I wanted participants to be able to describe the hydrologic cycle and how their lives impact that process. I wanted them to be able to discuss ways in which sustainable development intersects with them and with water. And I wanted them to describe a water opportunity to positively engage members of their community or circle. And I took into the class various things that I found in the store or in the place where I was staying, upon which we built activities. The first activity was called The Story of Your Objects with the terms water and women. Participants had to pick up one of the objects from the table, join a group randomly, create a story or poster with water and women based on the objects that they had, and then do a 1 to 3 minute group presentation.
Coconut ladies. Okay, so we use compost to fertilize our plants, coconut trees, and seaweed as a pest control to kill pests.
Yes, under the coconut trees, we nurture the coconut tree with our water. So this is essential for the growth of our coconut trees so that we can have our products.
On sale, we have sugar cakes, coconut water, coconut milk, and sweet coconut milk. So make it, let's get it, to make it sweet.
Water running, water running, water running.
The sweet sound of soca, the water running woke me at 3 a.m. After a fruit salad, throwing the peelings in the compost bin, I took a shower with my carrot soap, thinking of all the sweaty women's bodies I will encounter. I got dressed, then applied my own natural body talent cream. I grabbed my frosty mug of brown coke and headed out the door, dancing to the song of Holy Water Running, Holy Water Running,
Seeing this was most of our first visit to Barbados, we decided we wanted to go to visit a jungle. So we decided to visit
Turner's Hall Woods.
Now we know going into the jungle, and as woman and man, we will need some protection. So we decided to walk with the jungle salve
And off insecticide.
and because Corey did not want to use this on his skin,
That's in my mind.
right, he decides to walk with the
Insecticide. We process the ginger. So we manufacture the ginger, we manufacture the ginger. And then we also had our water plant with processed water. And we use that same water to make the tea to drink. So as you can see here, we have the coil and the mosquitoes around us.
water, the base of a woman's life, a cleanser to keep her cool and refreshed, an absorbent for all of life inconveniences, a solvent to make all of life refreshing drink. Water, the base of a woman's life.
After the presentations, I gave feedback on how their projects linked in with what I do in environmental engineering.
And then if you're like me and you got like big welts and big boils when you type, I use this Belizean jungle salve and it sort of helps It does, right? So this is all my budget going to deal with mosquitoes, including a citronella candle that I might burn. And lo and behold, a mosquito bites me and I get chikungunya. So I might go to the doctor. Any of you all went to the doctor when you got it?
No.
Some of my students work in countries where people don't have access to water. And so the question becomes, when a woman has her period, what happens? Right? So when you have your period now, you might use a pad, you might use a tampon, you might use a diva cup, right? But when you have your period, you probably, and it collects the blood. And then after, I guess, 8 hours or so, you take it out and you rinse it out. Wash it out and then you put it back in. And so that's your cup that you walk with you. So you've eliminated all of this waste. Because water is a basic human need, like you cannot live very long without water, but there's a cost associated with it. So we're more willing to pay, I don't know, $50, $100 for this, or $300, $400 for this, and I wouldn't pay that for water, which I need every day to drink.
It says WASCO needs money too, because people don't pay their water bills.
We all then went outside for a quick discussion on the hydrological cycle in the built environment of the UE campus.
So this is coming down and just, going into soil, which is great. If we had stuff planted here, it would be even better because it would be feeding the plants, right? But we don't. And we could do that to improve it. But any of you, mainly from Antigua, I think, y'all would let us happen? Captured, what would you use the rainwater for?
Use it for planting, for drinking.
Use it for everything. Are you concerned, like if animals are on the roof and they poop and how clean water is?
Most of it, we have filters that we put over it.
For the last activity, participants formed 3 groups and worked with objects that I put together. The Sustainable Development Goals were printed and each group had a different set that they had to go through. They had to create a research or business opportunity based on the objects, link that opportunity to one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals that they had, and then do a 3-minute group presentation.
Say that we want to start with our environment. So if we start with our environment, doing things like emptying the floor,
12.8 by 2030, ensure that people everywhere have the relevant information and awareness for sustainable development.
Cooking and using products, and then that goes to the table, and then that goes from the table into making products like sugarcane, food, and other items. Then it helps to fertilize your plants. Also, the compost helps with that, and then it goes back to the table again. So that's our cycle.
16, promoting peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, including access to justice.
sustainable peace.
Intake of local juices and things like coconut water, lemonade that we can make from natural fruits, smoothie, and of course,
I presented on this class at the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association Conference in Trinidad and Tobago in October 2016. I reflected that regardless of the objects provided, participants were able to tell stories that met the objective and that actually addressed very relevant topics like water scarcity. That the stories provided insight into the use of language and culture for communication, the use of music, movement, action, dance, double entendre, song, and that participants developed many themes that really fit with hot topics in sustainability, and that the diversity in CIGAD is useful in knowledge exchange of how water is managed in different CARICOM nations. I thought and still think that CIGAD is a great avenue to mainstream gender in the water and wastewater sector throughout the Caribbean. The CIGAD cohort is part of a much longer and larger program. And so there's a certain level of comfort with working together and presenting with each other. The students are together for, I think, a month at a time, and they always come back over the years to work with each other on different projects. And so the question is, how can this be programmed and integrated with utilities and organizations that deal with water and wastewater infrastructure? That sharing course materials widely would be best with multimedia production, like what we're doing right now, and social media integration. Given that the Caribbean depends so highly on international development aid in terms of grants and loans, the topic of gender becomes extremely important, as many agencies and organizations now require gender components integrated into the projects being proposed. USAID, the IEDB, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Green Climate Fund, in particular the Green Climate Fund, requires a gender analysis of all projects and requires gender mainstreaming and integration throughout the project lifecycle. By the end of the presentations, I sort of wanted to make it clear or evident that the 17 Sustainable Development Goals all intersected with gender, and pretty much it just depends on how you write your proposals or or phrase your projects, that you could infuse gender into any one of those SDGs.
With gender